30 years from now, which diamond do you think you'll be happier you bought? The natural diamond or the laboratory grown diamond? I don't know. And despite how strongly people argue about this online, I don't think anybody can tell you what you're going to value 30 years from now. Will your daughter care that her mother's engagement diamond came from the earth? Will your grandson care that the diamond he's proposing with was laboratory grown? Maybe, maybe not. But I think that's a much more interesting conversation than the one we keep having today. Which one is better? Because after nearly 30 years in the jewelry industry, my answer is actually pretty simple. Neither choice is automatically wrong. I personally prefer natural diamonds, and I'll explain why. But that doesn't mean you should. Because the question I want you to answer by the end of this video isn't which diamond does Mark think I should buy? It's which diamond means more to me. And those are two completely different questions. So let's start with the most basic argument. Are lab-grown diamonds real diamonds? Yes, they are diamonds. A laboratory-grown diamond has essentially the same chemical composition, crystal structure, and optical and physical properties as a natural diamond. The fundamental difference is how they came into existence. One formed naturally within the earth, the other was grown through a technological process created by humans. And visually, if you put a beautiful natural diamond and a beautiful lab-grown diamond in front of me without paperwork, I'm not going to pretend I have some magical ability to look at them and reliably tell you which is which. I can't. Specialized screening equipment and gemological laboratories can identify differences associated with how diamonds formed or were grown. But that's not necessarily something you're going to see just looking at a beautiful diamond on someone's finger. And I think that's important because sometimes I hear people say lab-grown diamonds are fake. I don't think that's technically the right way to describe them. If by fake you mean it isn't a diamond, then no, it's a diamond. If what you're trying to say is that it wasn't created by nature, then yes, that's the distinction. It's a lab-grown diamond, and that distinction should always be disclosed. But then I hear arguments from the other side. If they're both diamonds and they look the same, why would anybody spend more for natural? And that's where this conversation becomes much more interesting to me. Because jewelry isn't only about what we can see, it's also about what something means to us. I have a diamond that my mother gave me. It's not enormous. And when I think about that diamond, I'm not sitting here calculating what it's worth. That's not why it matters to me. My mother owned it, she gave it to me, and there's something about knowing that this little stone came from nature. It's existed long before my mother, long before me, and hopefully will still be here long after I'm gone. That means something to me. That's part of my connection to natural gemstones. And I want you to notice something very important about what I just said. It means something to me. It doesn't have to mean the same thing to you. You might look at a lab-grown diamond and think, do you realize what humans accomplished here? We learned how to grow something with essentially the same fundamental properties as a diamond formed by nature. And maybe that technology fascinates you. Maybe the natural origin means absolutely nothing to you. Maybe you would rather spend considerably less or use your budget to get a large lab-grown diamond. There's nothing inherently wrong with that decision. This is where I think social media gets this conversation wrong. We keep trying to make people choose teams, natural versus lab, as if one person has to be stupid for the other person to be right. I don't believe that. If you love lab-grown diamonds, I'm not here to convince you that you shouldn't. If you love natural diamonds, I'm not going to tell you you're wasting your money simply because a lab can produce a diamond for less. Value is more complicated than price. Now let's talk about price difference, because this is where the real decision becomes very real. Let's say you have $10,000 to spend on an engagement ring. Depending on the exact diamonds you're comparing and current market pricing, that budget could lead to very different options in natural and lab-grown diamonds. With a lab-grown diamond, you may be able to get considerably more carat weight or higher specification for your budget. With natural, the same budget may mean choosing a smaller diamond, or making different compromises in color, clarity, carat weight, or other characteristics. And that's when you have to stop looking at everybody else's finger and start thinking about what matters to you. Because bigger isn't automatically better. I talked about this in another video. People get attached to numbers. 1 carat, 2 carats, 3 carats, 5 carats. And lab-grown diamonds have made larger diamonds accessible to many more people. That's great if a large diamond is generally what you love, but don't buy a huge lab-grown diamond simply because you can. The same way I wouldn't tell someone to stretch financially for a natural diamond just because it's natural. Look at your hand, look at your lifestyle, look at the proportions, look at the ring, and ask yourself, would I choose this if nobody else ever knew what it cost? That's a much better question. Now we have to talk about resale, and I want to be careful here because I hear ridiculous claims about both sides. I buy diamonds from the public, and I have seen people bring in lab-grown diamonds and become very disappointed when they learn that someone is willing to pay for them in secondary market. I've seen people who purchased lab-grown diamonds early in the development of this market when retail prices were considerably higher, and later discovered that current market conditions were very different from what they expected. That's painful, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you buy a natural diamond and you'll make money. No, I don't believe you should look at an ordinary engagement ring as a financial investment. Natural diamonds can also sell secondhand for considerably less than their own original price. So if someone promises you that natural diamond is automatically going to appreciate, I ask a lot of questions. There are exceptional natural diamonds where rarity changes the conversation. I once worked with a client who had 2 old mine cut natural diamonds, each over 6 carats. Now we're talking about something very different, large, old, unusual natural stones. But you can't take an example like that and use it to say every natural diamond is an investment. That's not responsible. Where natural can have another advantage depending on the jeweler is trade-in. Some jewelers offer programs that allow customers to receive credit based on the original purchase towards a larger or more expensive natural diamond. But those programs vary tremendously, so don't assume you have one. Ask and get terms in writing. And if someone says, I don't care about resale, I'm never going to sell my engagement ring, I understand that too. Hopefully you never do. But I've been around this industry long enough to know that we have absolutely no idea where life is going to take us. Maybe 20 or 30 years from now, you're celebrating an anniversary. Your financial situation has changed, your taste has changed, and you want something different. Maybe you upgrade. Maybe you pass the original diamond to your son or your daughter. Maybe you never touch it. Nobody knows. That's why I want you to understand what you're buying today without pretending we can predict your life 30 years from now. And that brings me to the part of the conversation that matters most to me personally, legacy. When I think about jewelry, I think about generations. That's how I grew up. My father was deeply connected to natural diamonds and emeralds. That was the world he knew. And I grew up with the same appreciation for natural gemstones. So if I were choosing an engagement diamond for someone I loved, I would personally choose natural. Not because I think lab-grown diamond is fake, not because I think somebody who buys one made a bad decision, and not because I think my natural diamond is automatically going to make me money. I choose it because natural origin means something to me. There's something about nature creating a diamond under extraordinary conditions with all the variables that had to come together, and then that stone eventually becoming part of one's family story. That I find beautiful. Maybe I'm sentimental. I'm okay with that. Jewelry is sentimental. That's one of the reasons we buy it. Think about this. If you're buying an engagement ring at 25, maybe you're building your career. Maybe you're trying to buy a home. Maybe you're paying off debt. Maybe you're thinking about children. Maybe spending significantly more for a natural diamond doesn't make sense for your life that you're trying to build together. And a beautiful lab-grown diamond gives you exactly what you want without putting unnecessarily financial pressure on your relationship. I understand that decision. Maybe 30 years later, life has been good to you. You've built something together. You've gone through difficult times. You've raised a family. You've succeeded. You've failed. You've gotten back up. And now you're celebrating 30 years together. Maybe that's when you buy the natural 5-carat diamond you've always wanted. Maybe that diamond represents something completely different at that point in your life. I understand that decision too. Or maybe you're 25 and from the beginning, having a natural diamond matters deeply to the both of you. So you buy a smaller natural diamond. I understand that too. There's no universally correct answer. There's only an informed decision. And there's another thing I want couples to understand. Talk about this before the proposal. If she has dreamed her entire life about receiving a natural diamond, I would not quietly substitute a lab-grown diamond and hope she never finds out. And if she specifically wants a lab-grown diamond, don't pressure her into a natural because somebody told you it's more prestigious. Listen to each other. The proposal can still be a surprise. The value behind the purchase don't necessarily have to be. And jewelers have a responsibility here too. If a diamond is lab-grown, disclose it. Clearly, don't make the customer figure it out later. The FTC specifically requires seller to clearly communicate that lab-grown diamond is not a mined diamond. Trust is worth more than making one transaction. Now, what about quality? Just because a diamond was grown in a laboratory doesn't mean you should stop caring about quality. I've seen lab-grown diamonds that I thought were beautiful, and I've seen others that I didn't particularly like. Cut still matters, color matters, clarity matters, proportions matter, and most importantly, look at the diamond. Don't get hypnotized by letters and numbers on the report. This is particularly interesting today because even the way laboratories describe lab-grown diamonds continues to evolve. For example, GIA changed its system from colorless to near colorless lab-grown diamonds in 2025. Instead of using natural diamond colors and clarity nomenclatures, its current quality assessment categorizes quality lab-grown diamonds as premium or standard. That's another reminder that this market is still evolving. For a significant purchase, I want documentation from a reputable independent laboratory appropriate to what I'm buying. But remember, what I said in my engagement video before, don't buy the report, buy the diamond. Use the report for information, then look at the actual stone. Because whether it's natural or lab-grown, you're wearing the diamond, not the piece of paper. Now let's touch on ethics and the environment. You're going to hear claims that lab-grown diamonds are automatically the ethical or environmentally friendly choice. You'll also hear arguments defending natural diamond mining and the communities and economies connected to it. I'm deliberately not going to give you a one-sentence answer because I don't think this issue deserves one. Energy resources for manufacturing matter. Mining practices matter. Labor practices matter. Traceability matters. Where something comes from matters. And making a blanket statement that every diamond is one category is automatically ethical while every diamond in the other category isn't is not a claim I'm comfortable making. That's a conversation worthy of its own video. And its provenance or environmental impact matters strongly to you. Ask questions about the specific diamond and its supply chain rather than relying on a label. Now, what about jewelry other than engagement rings? This is where even your own answer might change. Maybe you want a lab-grown diamond tennis bracelet. Maybe you want earrings with several carats of lab-grown diamonds. Maybe you travel frequently and rather leave your expensive natural jewelry somewhere secure and travel with lab-grown pieces. Those can all be perfectly reasonable decisions. Personally, I'd still generally choose natural. That's simply my preference. But my preference isn't a rule for your jewelry box, and I think that's ultimately where this entire big game has gone wrong. People ask, are natural diamonds better or lab-grown diamonds better? I think both questions miss the point. The better question is, which one is better for you? If natural, origin, rarity, tradition, and the idea of passing a natural form gemstone through generations means something to you, then understand why you're paying more and decide whether that meaning is worth it to you. If those things don't particularly matter and you rather put your budget towards size, specification, other financial priorities, or simply a beautiful lab-grown diamond that you love, understand that decision too. And don't let somebody make you feel inferior for it. The diamond on somebody else's finger doesn't make yours less meaningful, and the price somebody else paid doesn't make your relationship more or less valuable. Which brings me back to where we started. 30 years from now, which diamond will you be happier you bought? Natural or lab-grown? I still can't answer that for you. Maybe by the end, we'll look back at this entire debate and laugh about how much we argued over it. Maybe natural diamonds will become even more emotionally associated with rarity and heritage. Maybe future generations won't care nearly as much about origin as I do. I cannot predict that, but I do know one thing. 30 years from now, I don't want you looking at your ring and thinking, I bought this because somebody on TikTok told me natural diamonds were a scam. And I don't want you to think I thought I bought this because somebody in a jewelry store made me feel like lab-grown diamond wasn't good enough. I want you to look at it and say, we understand our choices and this was the right choice for us. That's it. Buy a natural diamond if its natural origin and what it represents carries enough meaning to you to justify what you're spending. Buy a lab-grown diamond if that's what fits your priorities, your budget, and what the two of you value. Neither decision makes you smarter than the other person. Neither diamond makes your relationship more important. And neither side of this debate gets to decide what your jewelry means to you. I'm Mark Hatamian. For nearly 30 years, I've had the privilege of working across different parts of the jewelry industry and learning from people I've met along the way. My goal isn't to tell you what to buy or sell. My goal is to help you understand why so you can make confident decisions about jewelry. So I'm curious, if you were choosing today, would you choose natural or lab grown? And more importantly, why? Tell me in the comments because I think the reason behind your answer is far more interesting than the answer itself. And if you'd like to continue learning with me, I'd be honored to have you subscribe. Thank you for spending a little time with me today. I'll see you in the next video.